Picture this. It's 2:47 in the morning in Tokyo. A woman in heels is walking home alone through a side street in Shinjuku. Not hurrying, not checking over her shoulder, just walking, headphones in, groceries in one hand, like it's the most normal thing in the world. Because in Japan, it is. Now, picture a man sitting in a small room, paying by the hour. Not for anything you're thinking, just to sit next to another human being. No conversation required, no romance, just the warmth of someone nearby. Because in Japan, loneliness has gotten so bad, the government appointed an official minister of loneliness to deal with it. Same country, two realities, both true at the same time. Japan is the only place on Earth where you can feel completely safe at 3 a.m. and completely alone at noon. Where the future has already arrived, but the past is still showing up to work every morning in a suit. Where a toilet is smarter than most cars, and a word exists for people who die from working too hard. Today, we're counting down 15 facts about Japan that won't just impress you. Some of them will confuse you, some will make you want to book a flight immediately, and at least one is going to quietly break your heart. Let's go. Most people picture Japan as a single island. A mountain, a bullet train, maybe some cherry blossoms. The reality is something else entirely. Japan is an archipelago, a chain of nearly 6,852 islands stretching across the northwestern Pacific. And here's the part that stops people cold. Only about 400 of those islands are actually inhabited. The rest are empty, untouched. Some have never had a single human footprint on them. Now compress 125 million people onto that inhabited land. Subtract the volcanic mountains and steep forest terrain that covers most of it, and what you're left with is this. Nearly 90% of Japan's population lives on just 10% of the land, mostly along coastlines, mostly in cities so dense they make New York feel like a small town. And under all of it, the earthquakes. Japan sits directly on the Pacific Ring of Fire. Around 1,500 earthquakes a year. Most are small. Many go unnoticed. But the ground here is never truly still. The Japanese have built an entire civilization on top of something that can shift at any moment, and they've adapted to it so completely that most residents barely register a tremor anymore. There's something almost poetic about that, a society built on instability that found a way to be the most orderly place on Earth. Here is a number that should genuinely alarm you. Nearly 30% of Japan's population is over the age of 65. That's almost 1 in 3 people. Japan is officially the fastest aging society on the planet, and the trend is accelerating, not slowing. The birth rate has fallen off a cliff. Young Japanese people, educated, ambitious, exhausted, are choosing careers and independence over marriage and children at historic rates. In 2023, Japan recorded its lowest number of births since modern records began. In some rural towns, there are more people over 80 than under 10. Schools are closing. Entire villages are being abandoned. Not slowly, but now. The government is throwing money at the problem. Cash incentives for couples to have babies. Regional governments offering families thousands of dollars per child just to stay. One prefecture even launched a government-run dating app. It is not working fast enough. The economic consequences are enormous and compounding. With fewer young workers, who funds the pensions? Who staffs the hospitals, the factories, the restaurants? Japan is turning to robots and AI to fill the gap. Not because it wants to, but because it is running out of other options. This is not a distant projection. This is a country quietly watching its future population shrink in real time, with no clean solution in sight. When the last salaryman steps off the train, Japan doesn't go to sleep, it transforms. The big cities, Tokyo, Osaka, Fukuoka, become something else entirely after dark. Vending machines glowing on every corner, neon bleeding into wet pavement, tiny bars tucked into alleyways so narrow you have to turn sideways to get through. Welcome to the izakaya, Japan's version of an after-work pub, except more intimate, more honest, and infinitely more interesting. These are small spaces with low lighting and cheap beer and plates of food meant to be shared slowly. But what makes them matter is what they allow. In a society built on strict social hierarchy, the izakaya is where that hierarchy softens. A junior employee can laugh with his boss. A quiet woman can become the loudest person in the room. The formality of the day dissolves into something more human. And then there's karaoke. Not the karaoke you know, a stage, an embarrassing microphone, a crowd. Japanese karaoke is a private room. You and your group. A microphone, a screen, and 2 hours of complete permission to be ridiculous. In a culture that demands emotional restraint at virtually all times, karaoke is one of the only socially acceptable ways to completely fall apart. Which is exactly why the Japanese love it so fiercely. Travel to Kyoto and nightlife looks completely different. Traditional performances, classical instruments, the distant possibility of a geisha disappearing beneath a lantern-lit gate. 2 cities, 2 Japans, both running parallel, both completely real. For centuries, the expected arc of a Japanese woman's life was clear. Graduate, marry young, raise children, support the household. That arc has not disappeared, but underneath it, something is shifting, and it is shifting fast. In major cities today, it is completely normal to meet women in their 30s who are single by choice, working full-time, traveling alone, investing, building, deciding. Marriage has gone from a destination to one option among many, and increasingly, an unpopular one. The numbers are stark. Japan's marriage rate has fallen for decades. More women than ever are choosing to live independently. The term herbivore men, passive, unambitious, uninterested in pursuing relationships, has entered common usage to describe a generation of Japanese men that many women are choosing not to wait for. One trend that surprises people, a growing number of Japanese women are specifically seeking out foreign partners. The reason they cite, consistently, is emotional openness, the desire for a relationship built on genuine partnership rather than traditional expectation. But this shift doesn't come without cost. Family pressure remains enormous. The expectations, graduate, marry young, have children, don't evaporate because society is changing. Many women are fighting 2 battles simultaneously, the one in the world and the one at home. What's happening is not rebellion, it's recalibration, quiet, determined, and entirely irreversible. Every country has social norms. Japan has something more like a social physics, invisible forces governing how people move, speak, and exist together in shared space. On the Shinkansen bullet train, one of the busiest transportation systems on Earth, the silence is almost startling. No loud conversations, no phone calls. People text even for urgent matters, rather than risk disturbing those around them. Noise is considered a form of intrusion. Quiet is the default courtesy. Bowing is not just a greeting, it's a full language. The angle tells you everything. A quick 15-degree nod between colleagues, a slow, sustained 45-degree bow to express genuine apology. The rules are precise, unwritten, and universally understood. At the dinner table, the invisible rules stack up fast. Never stick chopsticks upright in a bowl of rice. It mimics a funeral ritual. Never pass food directly from your chopsticks to someone else's. That's how families handle cremated remains. Never pour your own drink first. You pour for others and wait for them to return the gesture. These aren't arbitrary rules. Every one of them has a history. And tattoos. In most of the world, ink is fashion. In Japan, it carries an association that hasn't fully faded, the Yakuza. Many onsen, gyms, and public baths still post signs. No tattoos allowed. Not a suggestion, a rule. The remarkable thing is not that these rules exist, It's that almost no one ever has to enforce them. Quick pause. I'm genuinely curious where in the world you're watching this from. Drop your country or city in the comments. I want to see how far this community actually reaches. You need someone to play your husband at a family dinner. Japan has a company for that. You need a professional to go apologize to your neighbor on your behalf. Also available. You need trained mourners to cry at your loved one's funeral because the turnout was low? Yes, that too. These are not jokes. They are registered businesses with actual clients, operating in a highly functional society, and solving problems that are, when you understand the context, completely logical. The rent-a-relative industry exists because Japan's single rates are climbing and family expectations haven't kept pace. Arriving to a wedding or a company dinner alone can carry genuine social consequences. So people hire actors. It sounds absurd until you understand the pressure behind it, and then it sounds heartbreaking. Then there are rage rooms, soundproofed spaces where customers pay to smash things with hammers, plates, electronics, bottles, whatever needs to be destroyed. In a culture that demands composure almost without exception, having a legal space to completely lose control isn't a luxury. It's a pressure valve. And then, the Cuddle Cafe. Customers pay by the hour simply to have another human being nearby, to hold hands, to rest their head on a stranger's shoulder. No romance, no conversation required. Just the physical fact of another person. Japan appointed an official Minister of Loneliness in 2021. The Cuddle Cafe isn't a quirky novelty. It's a symptom of something much larger, a country of 125 million people where millions feel profoundly, structurally alone. Mount Fuji stands at 3,776 meters. It is the highest point in Japan and almost certainly the most recognizable mountain on Earth. But for the Japanese, Fuji is not a landmark. It is a deity. The mountain has been considered sacred for over 1,000 years. Climbing it is not tourism, it's pilgrimage. Every summer, hundreds of thousands of people make the ascent specifically to witness the sunrise from the summit. The Japanese have a word for this experience, goraiko, and those who have done it say no photograph comes close. But Fuji has a shadow. At its base lies Aokigahara, a dense, silent forest where compasses malfunction due to iron-rich volcanic rock, where the trees grow so close together that ambient light disappears within minutes of entering, and where Japan's suicide rate has made the forest notorious worldwide. Signs posted at the forest entrance read, "Your life is a precious gift from your parents." Japan is a country of extraordinary beauty, placed directly beside extraordinary pain, often within walking distance of each other. Fuji is the clearest expression of that paradox, a place the Japanese consider a god, standing above a forest that has become a monument to despair. Would you climb it? All night in the cold, just to see the sunrise from the top? Let me know in the comments. Not a typo. 300,000 festivals annually, more than any other country on Earth. And these are not informal gatherings. They are deeply intentional, deeply cultural, and tied to the seasons with a precision that reflects something fundamental about how Japanese people understand time. The most famous is Hanami, cherry blossom viewing. When the sakura trees bloom, the entire country pauses. Families lay blankets beneath the trees. Office workers eat lunch in the park. Strangers share food with strangers. And everywhere, there is a shared understanding. These flowers will be gone in 2 weeks. The Japanese have a word for this. Mono no aware, the bittersweet beauty of things that don't last. Hanami is not a picnic, it is a philosophy. Summer brings Gion Matsuri in Kyoto, one of the oldest continuous festivals in the world, held every July since 869 AD, originally begun as a ritual to stop a plague. Over 1,100 years later, the floats still roll through the same streets. In Tokyo, The Sumida River Fireworks Festival turns the sky into synchronized art. Japanese fireworks, hanabi, literally fire flowers, are not about volume, they are about precision. About 10,000 people falling silent at exactly the same moment. And in winter, the Sapporo Snow Festival fills an entire city with ice sculptures standing stories tall, carved through freezing nights, built for a weekend. And then the sun comes out, and they melt. That too is the point. If you think sushi is raw fish on rice, Japan would like to politely dismantle that entire understanding. Sushi is a craft that takes years, sometimes more than a decade, to master. Requires expertise most chefs never fully develop. The temperature, the vinegar ratio, the exact pressure used to shape each piece without crushing the grain. There are sushi restaurants in Tokyo with 3-year waiting lists. Not 3 months, 3 years. Ramen tells a different story. The story of place. The rich, creamy tonkotsu broth of Fukuoka bears no resemblance to the clear, delicate shoyu style of Tokyo. Each bowl is a product of its region's climate, culture, and personality. Ordering ramen in Japan is not ordering noodles. It's asking a city to explain itself to you. Then there is the food that doesn't translate well. Takoyaki. Octopus balls cooked in cast-iron molds and served hot enough to burn your tongue, eaten standing on the street. Shirako. The soft, creamy, melting delicacy that regulars call a winter treasure. What is it? The reproductive glands of male fish. It sounds like a dare. It tastes extraordinary. And watching a first-timer's face cycle through every possible human emotion in 5 seconds is, apparently, half the reason locals order it at a shared table. In Japan, food is not fuel. It is ritual, memory, season, and craft. Every dish has a reason. Every ingredient has a history. Sitting down to eat here, really eat, is one of the more humbling things a traveler can experience. Japan has over 27,000 natural hot springs, more than any other country on Earth, and almost all of them require you to enter completely naked. No swimwear, no covering up, just you and the thermal water and everyone else. In a country built on hierarchy, social roles, and the performance of status, the onsen is the great equalizer. A CEO and a construction worker sit in the same pool. No one knows, no one cares. In the water, rank disappears. You're just a body in warm mineral water, which is exactly the point. The ritual matters as much as the soak itself. Before entering, you wash your entire body at a private station. This is not optional. It is a form of respect for the water, for the space, for the people you'll share it with. Inside, no running, no loud talking, no phones. The onsen is for healing. The warm mineral water genuinely works on joints and muscles, but the healing that's harder to name, the slowdown, the quiet, the nowhere to be, that might be the more valuable thing it offers. In a country where overwork is a documented cause of death, sitting in hot water with nowhere to go and nothing to check is not just relaxation. For many Japanese people, it's the closest thing to peace they feel all week. Roughly 1 for every 30 people. On every corner, in every station, inside office buildings, beside mountain trails, at the gates of ancient temples. You are never more than a few minutes from a vending machine in Japan. And they don't just sell drinks. Hot canned coffee, fresh ramen, umbrellas, neckties, surgical masks, flowers, manga, hot fried food, specific machines serving specific needs, depending on where you are and who's nearby. In a city, luxury goods. On a hiking trail, electrolyte drinks and energy bars. In a business district, emergency dress shirts still in packaging. The system works because Japan operates on a principle of radical personal responsibility. The machine trusts you to make your own choices. The wider system expects you to live with them quietly. This same principle shows up in Japanese schools, where students clean their own classrooms. No janitors. The students are the janitors. Not as punishment, but as philosophy. The lesson being taught is not how to mop a floor. It's how to care for something that belongs to everyone. A vending machine culture and a philosophy of shared responsibility turn out to be expressions of the same thing. Smart toilets. Let's start there, because they deserve a moment. Japan's high-end toilets feature heated seats, motion-activated lids, built-in deodorizers, rear wash functions, with adjustable pressure and temperature, and some models play ambient audio for privacy. Airport models display the weather. Some greet you by name. In a country where personal hygiene is understood as a form of respect for others, the toilet is not a convenience. It's an engineering philosophy made physical. Unmanned convenience stores are already operating in parts of Tokyo. You walk in. AI cameras track what you pick up. You walk out. Your account is charged. No cashier, no line, no interaction. Commerce made invisible. Parking in dense urban areas is handled by robotic tower garages, multi-story mechanical systems that lift your car into a vertical grid. You hand over the keys. The machine does the rest. In a city where land costs more per square meter than almost anywhere on Earth, building upward instead of outward isn't innovation. It's survival. Every sidewalk in Japan is lined with yellow tactile paving blocks, guiding visually impaired people through some of the most complex urban environments ever built. Nursing homes deploy robotic caregivers that lift patients without injury. In Hokkaido, pipes embedded beneath the roads circulate warm water that melts snow on contact. The streets heat themselves. These aren't experiments. They're infrastructure. Karoshi. It translates directly, death by overwork. It is a recognized medical and legal cause of death in Japan, not a metaphor, a diagnosis. Every year, hundreds of Japanese workers die from heart attacks, strokes, and suicide directly linked to extreme work hours. Cases have been documented of employees logging over 100 hours of overtime in a single month. Companies have faced criminal charges after workers died at their desks. The culture that drives this is precise and suffocating. Leaving work before your boss is considered disrespectful, regardless of whether your work is complete. Visible effort, long hours, late nights, the performance of exhaustion, signals commitment. Output matters less than time. Results matter less than presence. The government has introduced hour limits and mandatory vacation policies. They are not working. Many employees refuse to take vacation days because they fear being perceived as uncommitted. Some return to the office on their days off, quietly, so no one misses them. What makes this particular fact so painful is the contrast. Japan builds the most thoughtful public spaces in the world. Japan invented the concept of work-life harmony in its festivals and its onsen, and its philosophy of mono no aware. Japan understands, somewhere deep in its cultural DNA, that beautiful things are temporary and should be savored. And then it works its people to death. The country that builds heated sidewalks and robotic caregivers and 3 Michelin-star sushi cannot figure out how to tell its employees, "You've done enough. Go home." Japan has a reputation as expensive. That reputation is both accurate and incomplete. Rent in central Tokyo, $1,300 to $2,500 per month. In the suburbs, $400 to $800. Monthly utilities, roughly $100 to $200. A monthly transit pass, essential because public transport is how this city moves, runs $80 to $150. Total monthly cost of living for one person, somewhere between $1,500 and $3,500, depending on how you choose to live. That's not cheap. Compared to the rest of Asia, Japan sits near the top of every cost of living chart. But here's what that money buys. Streets clean enough that people eat off them. A crime rate low enough that 6-year-olds walk to school alone. Public transit that runs to the exact second. Not approximately, exactly. A healthcare system that is both genuinely high quality and genuinely affordable. a daily level of safety, order, and civic functionality that most of the world has not yet figured out how to replicate at scale. The millions of people who move to Japan and never leave are not paying for an apartment. They are paying for a standard of living that, once you've experienced it, makes everywhere else feel like a rough draft. We've talked about 6,852 islands and a government that appoints ministers of loneliness, about hot springs and smart toilets, and a word for dying at your desk, about a mountain that's a god and a forest at its base that holds too many secrets. If you strip all of it away and just sit with Japan long enough to feel it, rather than simply observe it, there is one thing underneath everything else. The Japanese call it wa. It means harmony, but that translation doesn't do it justice. Wa is not a concept you read about. It's something you feel. In the way a train car falls completely silent when someone's phone rings. In the way a stranger picks up the piece of trash you accidentally dropped before you even notice it's fallen. In the way a shopkeeper bows as you leave. Not because they're required to, but because that is simply how you treat a person who entered your space. Japan has been flattened by war and split open by earthquakes and rebuilt from near nothing more than once. And every time, the thing that held people together was not government or technology or money. It was a quiet, unspoken agreement that everyone would take care of something larger than themselves. That agreement, wa, is invisible. It won't appear in a guidebook, you won't find it on a sign, but you'll feel it within hours of arriving. In the way the city moves, in the way people make room for each other without being asked, in the way millions of strangers manage to share an incredibly dense, complex, demanding world without it falling apart. Japan is not a perfect country. No country is. But it is trying, in its own quiet, precise, occasionally heartbreaking way, to build something worth living in. And that is why the people who go there once almost always find a way to go back. That's Japan. From nearly 7,000 islands to 4 million vending machines. From a mountain people treat as a god to a forest that holds too many secrets. From the most advanced toilets ever built to a word that should not have had to be invented. From cuddle cafes and rent-a-husbands to 300,000 festivals that remind an increasingly isolated society that it still belongs to something. This country is a paradox that functions. It is the future that still lights incense at thousand-year-old shrines. It is a place that will make you feel completely safe and quietly sad and genuinely impressed, sometimes within the same hour. So, I want to know, would you live in Japan if you had the option? Yes, no, or already looking at apartments? Drop it in the comments. If this changed the way you see Japan even slightly, the like button is right there. It takes 1 second, and it genuinely helps this reach people who'd love it. Subscribe if you're not already. Next video, we're going somewhere that is going to make this one look calm. See you there.